Hi there, everybody. My name is Nate Gustafson. Thank you so much for joining me for this very special presentation on the long goodbye, walking with someone on the dementia journey. It has been a sacred trust given to me for over 15 years to walk with people from all walks of life along this dementia journey as a hospice chaplain, hospital chaplaincy, church ministry, youth ministry, in our own family. It's been a long journey, but it's been an honor and a privilege to walk with so many people along this journey. And so I put together a very special presentation geared to faith communities, to churches, to civic groups, to educational groups that all want to get out there and make a difference by going along with people on this special dementia journey. And maybe this journey is hitting close to home for you. Maybe somebody in your own family or in your own household or in your own circle of friends is going on this dementia journey with their loved one. So it's my hope and my prayer that this journey will empower you to go with other people, to be a sacred companion on this journey through the world of dementia and understand just what it takes to go along with people and to bring hope and healing and a chance to bring restoration together. So let's get started. So the long goodbye, walking with someone on the dementia journey. As I shared, it's been an honor and a privilege for over 15 years now to be a hospice chaplain, and especially in the role of a hospice chaplain, as well as in other ministry settings. I've had the privilege of visiting many people in nursing homes and memory care facilities, even in our own family, having people who have been down this dementia journey. It's a long, oftentimes very lonely journey. And I just want this presentation to be a chance to bring you some encouragement, some hope, and some handles to get a hold of as you walk with other people on this journey, because it takes more than just a single person to really make this journey a good journey for someone who's going through the dementia diagnosis. You see, friends, dementia and aging are two very closely related situations. Dementia is a broad disease umbrella, just like heart disease is a broad disease umbrella, or a cold or illnesses are a broad disease umbrella. Dementia is one of those disease umbrellas related to abnormal cognitive functioning in the brain. And so it could be based upon many different reasonings. It could be based upon vascular disease. It could be based upon stroke. It could be based upon Alzheimer's. It could be based upon Parkinson's, or any number of factors that could be contributing to this abnormal, unhealthy disease of the brain. And we oftentimes see it in older folks, although it's not an aging only situation that people are facing. But because the silver tsunami is here, and if you're not familiar with that term, the silver tsunami basically means that our population is aging. The number of people 65 and above are 15% of our population. And I know just for me, anecdotally, working in the hospice world, I have seen more and more people living to be 90, 95, 105. In fact, my record is getting to celebrate birthday 109 and 110 with a very special lady who you never would have realized that she had lived that long. So just because 15% of our population is 65 or over, it's ever increasing as the baby boomer population generation gets older and as people are living longer, we're going to see that number rising greatly. So there is a silver tsunami about to hit the shores, especially of the Western world, Western Europe, North America, as we have advanced healthcare and as people are living longer. And specifically, as you hear about dementia, you might be thinking of Alzheimer's and realize that Alzheimer's is a very specific form of dementia, but it's probably the most broad and popular or most widespread of the dementias, and it's the sixth leading cause of death in the United States. So going on the dementia journey really is like saying a long goodbye. If you've ever had just a sweet time of visiting family or friends that you haven't seen forever, and it's time to say goodbye, it's so hard. You just want to linger and hold on to that moment for as long as you possibly can. And the same as walking down this road of dementia with somebody. It's really a long journey into the unknown. We don't know exactly how the journey is going to unfold, but we know that we're going on this journey. And so we have to prepare for this journey. You can either choose to prepare or you can choose to just be completely in the dark and in denial about this and think that the denial is a river in Egypt, but it's not. Denial is a quick way to lose a lot of time and waste a lot of energy and heartache in this dementia journey. So let's get prepared for the journey, for the long goodbye. The first part of any good journey, any good vacation or any good trip or any good hiking or backpacking adventure that you're going to take is preparing. It's packing your suitcase. This is really the early stages of the dementia journey, is to pack what you think you're going to need for this journey. And I admit there is no way to even believe all that you could possibly need for this journey. So we're just thinking about the earliest stages of the journey. Once you start to realize that you yourself or a loved one or somebody close to you is starting to show those signs of more than just an occasional forgetfulness, more than just an occasional loss of memory or concentration, or having a hard time finding that one right word that you just know is at the tip of your tongue, but you can't come up with it. All of those are just normal things. I'm talking about progressing, ongoing situations where people are losing track of time, losing track of their space, losing track of their care of themselves. And it just starts to realize that something isn't clicking on all cylinders here. So that's the early stages of this dementia journey. So how do we get ready for that? Well, first of all, you're going to need a good pair of walking shoes, or as the lady in the picture here is a good pair of walking sandals that you can have onto your feet and ready for a long walk that'll cover lots of different types of terrain. And then you're going to need to pack the right kind of clothes. You might need clothes for hot days, cold days. You might need a couple extra jackets. You might need a waterproof jacket. You might need a winter coat. It just depends on where you're going and how you're facing this. And I don't mean necessarily that you're literally going to the mall to buy a certain set of clothes that'll help you through dementia. I'm just talking about just thinking in terms of being prepared, realizing that if you're going out into the wilderness for a 7-day backpacking trip, you've got to have clothes that are flexible. You've got to have clothes and shoes that can handle adverse situations. And so I just want to encourage you to think about just preparing yourself for adverse conditions. And just like you would on a vacation to the tropics, where you'd want to make sure you had a raincoat and umbrella, you want to make sure that you're prepared for any adverse changes in the season that could be headed your way. And we might want to pack some fruit in our suitcase. Now, I'm not talking about literal apples and bananas and peaches and oranges. I'm talking about fruit as the metaphor for virtues, fruit as the metaphor of characteristics. In the biblical sense of the term, fruit is oftentimes referred to those characteristics that are the outpouring of God working inside of us. Things like love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and gentleness, faithfulness, self-control. I would even add some more to that if I could think of them off the top of my head. But that is all to say that it's so important to pack your patience, especially in this journey. And a good sense of humor goes a long way. There will be missteps and mishaps, and there will be funny things that are said and silly things that occur. And it's great if you can just learn to laugh. If you aren't a person that laughs easily, I'd enroll in some comedy lessons in a hurry, because just this journey is so hard, and you can either laugh or you can cry, but it's even better when you can do it together. So bring your humor with you on this journey, and find yourself some expert guides. Remember those days long before the internet, long before travel websites that told you exactly what you needed for that specific journey you were taking. You would go to guides. You would actually get a physical map or a travel book at the library that explained what was ahead of you. Find yourself some expert guides. If you're not sure where to begin, maybe try the Alzheimer's Association or the Parkinson's Association or a local memory care unit, and just ask them, just say, hey, I think my loved one's in the earliest stages of this terrible disease. Do you have any guides? Do you have anyone I should be listening to? Any questions I should be asking at these early stages that will really help this journey come through? And then finally, again, VIP contacts. So just in case, even in the earliest stages, you think you might be off the trail and you're not quite sure if you're headed in the right direction, or You think maybe you're a little lost in the airport. You weren't sure if you should have gone right or gone left. Make sure you have on speed dial some VIP contacts, somebody that you trust and know that will have your back in these difficult situations. As I mentioned before, if I could just say one thing to make sure that you pack in your suitcase for the earliest stages of this journey is to pack your patience. Now, I get it. I get it. I get it. You already know all of this. You already have all this figured out. You already know where you're going and how to get there. So you don't need me to tell you, right? Well, just trust me. I still need to be reminded day after day after day in this work of walking with people in this long goodbye that I need, as the care provider, as a chaplain, as a minister, as a sacred companion, I need to remember to pack my patients on a daily basis. Make sure I have it with me in the car, in my backpack, ready to go each and every day I head out for this journey to walk alongside of somebody. Now, for the middle stages of this journey, it's really stepping into the unknown. As much as the early stages, you can kind of be prepared for some confusion. You can be prepared for some, maybe a couple extra doctor's appointments, some new medicine that you have to take. You may just need to be reminded to keep being patient with someone as they're trying to remember. But overall, there may not be huge disruptions to the flow of your life. There may not be huge disruptions to the relationship that you have with the loved ones that you're visiting or that you have in your own home. But in the middle stages, we really are heading into the unknown. And this is where things start to get complicated because it's no longer just a simple redirection or a simple word or phrase or something that you can just easily laugh off. In the middle stages, it's getting hard. Things are getting real. There are mood swings. There are greater losses that are coming along. And so how do we get prepared for that? I would say that in the unknown is really this middle stage. And this is unknown in time. It's unknown in temperament of your loved one and how they're going to be in these middle stages. And it's just unknown in terms of the temperature of how hot it is going to get under the collar when you are so stressed and you are so tired and you just don't know if you can continue down this road. That is this unknown, messy middle stage of this journey. And so in this journey, you got to realize and know that there are going to be multiple losses. And not just someone physically losing their way or losing a memory or losing an ability, but there's going to be loss of role. Maybe the mother that you always knew you could count on to calm things in the middle of a storm or remind you of important details or to, Mom, what was that special recipe? Or how did you make that Thanksgiving turkey so well? There may be losses of greater proportion than just how much, salt or sugar to put in the recipe. It'll be the loss of that relationship where oftentimes as children or the younger generation now is stepping in as the parent for the older generation. And that loss of role for the loved one who's going through dementia in any sort or any kind, there usually is this period of time where they're very confused, but they also know that they're very confused and they're terrified at how much they're losing and how much they realize that they're losing. Can you imagine what that must be like for someone who spent their entire life being independent, strong, dependable, reliable, trustworthy, and all of a sudden no longer can hold a conversation, no longer can do the things that they used to find so easy, like communicating and explaining things. These are multiple losses that people are facing. And for you as the caregiver, if you're walking alongside of someone, whether that's as a paid caregiver in like a memory care unit or a private care person like a senior companion, or whether you're the caregiver in your family or whether you're a professional caregiver, it doesn't matter. We still are in the middle with these people, and it can get stressful and it can get unknown how this is going to impact us and impact our ability to be caring and empathetic to what they're going through. In the unknown, it's going to be so huge to continue to build your library of resources, continue to build your knowledge and your database, not just up here, but in your heart and in your hands, just to get comfortable in these roles and these duties and these caregiver resources that are not there to overwhelm you, but they're really there to make your life easier to help you along in this journey. And realize that it's in the middle that we may need to shift gears. Sometimes we can anticipate a shift, like we can anticipate that mom or grandmother probably shouldn't be driving to the grocery store anymore. We can kind of anticipate that and how we're going to have that conversation. But there may be shifts in someone's health that are unexpected, an unexpected fall that could land someone in the hospital, unexpected infections, unexpected just casualties that you cannot realize that could be coming along, and they cause you to shift gears, first to second to third to second to first to going all the way to overdrive in no time. You're just shifting constantly, and it can just get so weary because you never can just settle in and go forward. It always seems like you're shifting and turning and going in many different directions at once. So in this middle is when it is also so important at each stage, at the earliest stages and in the middle stages, it's so important to begin to have those conversations about what does the end look like. We may not know what the end is going to look like. We don't have a crystal ball to know how long this is going to last, how unknown or how long the middle stages are going to be. I've known people who have suffered for 10, 15, 20 years down this road, and 10 of the 20 years may have been the middle stages. You just don't know how long this is going to be. It may be 10 days, 10 weeks, 10 months, 10 years. However long it is, it's time to start talking honestly and openly about what is the end going to look like. If you're already feeling like you have run on fumes at this middle stage, the end isn't going to be any easier, and you're going to need to look in terms of what is the help I'm going to need to make it for that final home stretch. What are the medical things that are going to be needing to be decided? Things like a do not resuscitate, or things like a medical power of attorney, advanced directives, which are another broad umbrella term in healthcare for who's going to make decisions for this loved one. If that hasn't already been put into place by the middle stages, it's probably too late, and you're going to have to do some more shifting along the way to make sure that all this is taken care of. Is there going to be a need for more caregivers? Is there going to be enough financial resources to help with this? What are the social changes that are going to need to take place? Those are all important things to consider as you're in this unknown, messy middle stage. So what do we need? If this is really what the early and the middle stages look like, and yes, you need to pack your suitcase. Yes, you need to pack your patience. Yes, you need some good walking shoes because it's going to be a long journey. Yes, you need a map and some guides and some context. And yes, you need to have some very open and honest and surround yourself with a team, surround yourself with a community. If you are in terms of the caregiving family for this loved one, you're going to need to adopt some new brothers and sisters as soon as you possibly can. Find some neighbors, find some help anywhere, any way you can that can be on your team, be on your side. Because what really helps in this journey, yes, the information helps. Yes, the medicine helps. Yes, the expert physicians help. Yes, the caregiving support helps. But ultimately, it's to really transform yourself from a caregiver to a sacred companion. And bringing an army of sacred companions, bringing an army of hope to surround you in this time, to walk with you and walk with your loved one as a sacred companion through the messy middle and to the end of the journey. So let's take a look at what a sacred companion is. Basically, a sacred companion is that everyday person. Sometimes they're a paid caregiver. Sometimes they're an expert like a nurse. Sometimes they're your best friend. Sometimes they're your next door neighbor or your Aunt Susie. Whoever it is that has the ability to be a blessing. And I mean by a blessing, I mean someone who blesses others. And so bless is an acronym that begins with prayer. That is the role I find so critical. And I understand that this presentation may be for people of all walks of life, all faith journeys, all spiritualities. And so I don't mean this in just a very narrow sense, but I do mean this, and you need a higher power. You need to tap into that power source, whatever that is for you. If that is God, and if that is Jesus, if that is your meditation practice, you need to begin with that. begin with prayer, begin with the power source that fuels you. And because you're going to be needing to be much more than just a caregiver, you're going to need to be much more than just a husband or a wife or a son or a daughter. You need to be a sacred companion who blesses this loved one in this journey. And that begins with prayer. And that's where the power source for the rest of this journey comes from, is that spiritual, that emotional, that innermost being connection that you need to depend on in this time. And then it begins to listen. Listening is that secret weapon through all of this, the secret skill that we don't spend enough time talking about. It's more than, again, knowing all the right terminology, knowing all the expert ways of handling things, knowing all the tricks and techniques. It's listening. Now, we all think that we're great listeners. We all think that just because we have 2 ears that we know how to listen, but it's kind of like that old-fashioned game of telephone where you talk in your friend's ear and they have to repeat it to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. And by the end, it's so far gone. It's so not at all what you began the conversation with. That's why listening is much more than just repeating or sharing information. It's getting to the heart. So listening actually begins with your mind, with the head, and you're getting just a who, what, when, where, why, and how. The 5 W's and the H: who, what, when, where, why, and how. So those 5 questions are just in your mind as you're listening to your loved one, as you're listening to all this unfold. And then as you start to get a hold of those pieces of the puzzle, then you're starting to listen with your hands. You're trying to get a hold of it. You're trying to make sense of it. So you can either begin with your hands to get a hold of it, or begin with your head to get a hold of it. Either way works, but you're just getting a hold of this whole picture. And then beyond just the content of what they're sharing with you, they're getting to the feelings of what they're sharing with you. So you're listening for the feelings of what's being shared, the processing of what's going on. So are they sharing this with a smile on their face? Are they sharing this with tears rolling down their cheeks? So you're listening not just for the content that you get a hold of, but you're also trying to wrap your mind around the process, the emotions of what they're sharing with you. And finally, it's listening with your heart, listening for those word pictures, listening for those metaphors, listening for those things like, I just want to go home. And home oftentimes means that they just want to be at peace and at rest. And oftentimes it's a spiritual call from the depths of their soul that they just want to be home. They want to be free and safe and comfortable again in their own skin. So they just want to be home. That's listening at 3 levels, not just, oh, where's your home? Is it on 123 Main Street? But how are they sharing that word picture that they want to be home? And so that's listening at 3 levels. Encouragement. A sacred companion not only begins with prayer, taps into their power source, they listen at 3 levels, but they encourage. They just constantly, you can do it. I believe in you. I see in you. If you could just remember those 4 letters, I see in you. I see in you, and then fill in the blank. That is such great encouragement for your loved ones on this dementia journey. And finally, the 2 S's: sustaining grace and silence is golden. Again, grace is those unmerited favor gifts that come our way that just sustain us along the way. You have to, as the sacred companion, be living in a rhythm, be living in a way that sustains you, has energy coming in and life being brought to you so that you can then share that life with someone else in this tough time. And remember that silence is golden. Sometimes it's just important to zip the lips, open the ears, and just sit there. Sit down, be silent, and invite the story to unfold in front of you. So when will it end? That's the $1 million question we get asked all the time. When will it end? As I've had loved ones facing this long, arduous road, I find myself asking this. I find my family members asking this, when will it end? And the answer is we don't know when it will end. There are certain signs and certain things that we start to see that may start to tip us off that we're in the last 6 months of this journey, that kind of end stage of the journey. Things like so much more lack of awareness, so much more lack of attentiveness. The outside world just begins to have no value to this person in this dementia journey. They are just either totally inside of themselves or totally in a whole nother world. And the outside world, with all of our coming and going and speeding around and things that we think are important, really aren't that important to our loved ones on this dementia journey anymore. And so in a sense, we have to say goodbye to so many of those things and realize that what really matters is just being present, being with their loved one in the moment, moment by moment by moment, not worrying about yesterday, not worrying about tomorrow, not making plans for next week or next month, but just zeroing in on the moment by moment presence in order to bring peace and comfort for our loved one. So the final chapter, the final journey, the home stretch, we've been traveling along, we've been packing for this journey, we've been consulting our guides, we've been making sure that we pack our patience, we've been making sure that we understand that we need open and honest and tough conversations all along the way. We're choosing to be sacred companions that bless our loved ones, or choosing to recruit sacred companions to be a blessing to our loved ones. And then we reach this final chapter, we'd say maybe the last 6 months to a year of a loved one's journey. It's in this time that we really do see a loss of identity. All the things that used to make them your loved one, like their laughter, their sense of humor, their joking, their abilities. Maybe they were a very skillful quilter. No longer do they have the dexterity to quilt. Maybe they're an excellent communicator. No longer are they able to hold a train of thought long enough to string together an eloquent story. Those are all losses of identity that come along the way. The loss, again, of intimacy in that identity is so critical. A lot of times at the very end, it just becomes way too much for a family to handle at home. Even with bringing in caregivers, even with this army of hope surrounding them, they get to the point where they just are done in. They're fried, they're cooked. There's nothing left in the tank to give. And so they make that very difficult decision to place their loved one in a facility where professional caregivers that can monitor their loved one's well-being 24/7. And again, that can bring about all sorts of emotions on the family, on the loved one who's making that decision for the person on the dementia journey. And it can bring a lot of guilt and a lot of shame that, oh, I couldn't do it. I'm worthless. I'm nothing. I'm just so guilty of breaking all my promises that I would never do this. And so you need to give yourself a lot of grace, give yourself a lot of compassion, that if you have to place a loved one, or you make the choice to place a loved one at any stage in this journey, that it's okay. You are still able to love and to bless and to be that sacred companion, just not 24/7, 365. And in the final chapter, there's more healthcare decisions, maybe signing up for palliative care, hospice care, choosing to make sure that no more hospitalizations. How much of their extracurricular health concerns are really going to be taking precedent? Do they really need that dental cleaning, or can they receive a little bit of dental hygiene work at home or at the facility that they're living in currently? And making ultimately that final decision to make sure that no more aggressive treatment takes place, no more rushes to the hospital, no more unnecessary medication, where you just focus on comfort and peace to help this person live out the rest of their days with as much quality and comfort as they possibly can. Because really what we're seeing here is the shrinking of the circle. We're seeing the shrinking of the person. We're seeing shrinking of the circle of support and care. We're seeing shrinking of just this process. Everything is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, to where it's just a very small circle that is surrounding this loved one at the very end, making sure that all the needs are being met, making sure that they're able to live their final days with peace and dignity and respect, surrounded with those who love them most. Because unfortunately, this dementia disease of all shapes and sizes, can turn a lot of amazing and intelligent and beautiful people into what I call the lifeless living. They just become this vegetative shell of themselves. And that, I would say, is probably the hardest thing for loved ones to face, is to see the physical shell that is remaining after dementia of all shapes and sizes has taken its toll, whether it's been for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, or more. Seeing the lifeless living stage is not for the faint of heart. And I don't blame certain family members when they get to that point and they just don't have it in them to witness it any longer. They just say, I can't do it any longer. Some have this amazing resolve, an amazing wherewithal, an amazing spirit to be able to continue the visits, continue the fight, continue the journey. But so many, as the circle of support dwindles around them and their loved one turns into a shell of themselves, they just say, you know what? At this stage of lifeless living, I really, for my own well-being, need to just limit how much I'm with my loved one. And that's okay. That's a very hard decision to make. And no judgment should be placed upon them for making that decision. So really, ultimately, what we're after here in this dementia journey, the long goodbye, is to have a peaceful goodbye. That's really what we want, is we want our loved one who's on this dementia journey, whatever brings them to this journey at this point is irrelevant. We want their last moments and their last time on this earth to be one of peace, to be one of wholeness, to be one of honor and love and respect. And so the way we do that is to surround them with as much love and care and tenderness that we can, creating a whole environment around them to allow them to feel deep within them, not just like physical touch, but soul touch, to know that they have love with them as they are taking their last breaths. And even the peaceful ending might be filled with laughter. It might be filled with tears. It might be filled with lots of commotion. I have seen some of the most peaceful passings in small homes filled with 50 people just stacked in there, shoulder to shoulder, praying and laughing and crying and loving on their loved one at the end of this journey. And it's such a beautiful sight. And then I know that there are also people who die peacefully without a soul next to them, just slipping into eternity, knowing that they have come through this journey and they can say their final goodbye with peace. So ultimately, my friends, I hope that this helps you. I hope that you get a picture for what this long goodbye really looks like. It's not an easy process. The long goodbye is not an easy journey. And we need sacred companions to go along with us on this journey, because we can't do it alone. As a professional, I can't do it alone. I serve alongside of nurses and doctors and nursing assistants and social workers and volunteers and music therapists and musicians and other pastors and priests and rabbis and clergy that come in at just the right time to provide the needed support along this journey. So friends, join me in being a sacred companion. Join me in walking alongside of these beautiful people all the way through the last goodbye, the long goodbye. And if there's any questions or concerns or any way that I could be of help or support for you, please reach out. My contact information is in the comment section. Thank you so much. Have a great day.